You are all people made of cells. And each one of your cells has its own life. And each cell has its own machinery to make life possible. Each cell has its tiny factories to make energy, just like in a city we have big areas dedicated to production of energy and electricity. Our cells have to create energy. They have to eliminate their waste material, just like we have to when we go to the bathroom, or our cities have to when we have dump yards. And our cells need their food and their nutrients to survive as an individual living entity. And each one of us is composed of trillions of cells. Many of our cells are not even our own. Many of them are the cells of microbes that reside within us, and in fact more microbes are in your body than cells that you call your own. So you have a lot of pets that you live with on a regular basis. You're not alone. But you have to still feed them. You still have to nurture them, and they provide you with chemical messengers. And those messengers help your other cells survive better. They tell you what to do with your insulin, what to do with your blood vessels, what to do with your nervous system, what to do with inflammation. All of that happens in concert between your cells and the microbes that reside within you. And in order to protect your own cells, you need to maintain multiple healthy environments. Each one of these environments is responsible to protecting your cells and to allowing them the best nourishment, the best protection, the best waste elimination, and the best responsiveness in times of stress. Every cell in your body needs to respond to stress. And stress could be defined in so many ways. Stress could be physical, emotional, psychological, spiritual, nutritional, pollutional, environmental, simple exertion, running a marathon. All of those are stressful events. And each cell has to find a way to respond, or else it might not survive. If you don't maintain all of those environments, which we will talk about, you end up not supporting your cellular units, and they will simply collapse. And they will die through a process called necroptosis. Necroptosis means the death of a cell. It could be the name of a movie. But it is a sad event for a cell to die because of an environment that was not conducive to health and didn't allow it to thrive. We want to maintain those cells because without them, there's no meaning to the self, to who we are. And to survive as cells, they need our support. We are an entity of consciousness that is aware of its own cells. Other animals are not aware of their own cells. Even though they have those cells, every mammal has billions of cells just like we do. But they're not aware of those cells. They simply do what nature tells them to do because that's their natural environment. And as long as they follow the rules of nature, their cells are protected. Therefore, they don't have to know about them. But for us who have already exited the natural environment in a big way, it's very difficult to maintain an environment out and inside of the body to actually protect our cells. Therefore, we must become aware of those cells and know what we need to do for them. If we understand how to protect them, we happen to protect our entire organism so that our self could thrive for many years to come. What are those environments? There are several environments, and I'm not sure we'll cover all of them, but we'll try and go from one to the next so that you can be aware of how important it is to maintain the appropriate communications between cells, between your cells and the microbes, between your hormones and your cells, which have receptors to all those hormones, between your nervous system and your neurotransmitters and the immune system, and even the mental state that directly affects your nervous system and your hormones in a way that impacts every cell in your body. If we are aware of these environments, we can truly make a step towards health in a way that we have normally neglected in our life today. So let's embark on this journey of what it is that the cell needs and how we can support the cells. On the most fundamental level, the cells need nutrients and energy. Let's talk about the nutrients, because those are very obvious. If you happen to have a nutritional deficiency, the cells will not be able to thrive, because whether it is a nerve cell that requires sufficient amount of lithium for its own health and for its preventive effects in avoiding inflammation and infection within the nervous system, lithium is crucial for the entire functionality of the nervous system, and most people today are deficient in lithium. They don't know it, but they drink water that's purified. Every time you drink purified water, it has been devoid of its trace elements, including lithium. And people, as a result, become increasingly deficient, and suddenly they are susceptible to all type of neurological infections, from herpes to Lyme's to others, because they lost their neurological protection. The nerve cells need lithium. And that's just one example. All the cells in the body need vitamin D in sufficient quantity. We all are deficient in vitamin D. Even if we take supplements, it's very difficult. I rarely see more than 1 in 50 people who have optimal vitamin D level, even if they take supplements, because they might take not the right type, not the water soluble, so that it doesn't get absorbed if they can't absorb fat, or they have digestive issues and they don't absorb, or the liver is unable to convert vitamin D to its active form, so they don't have the hormone vitamin D circulating sufficiently in their body, and they will not deliver vitamin D to the cells. And vitamin D is crucial for cellular health, because it is important for hundreds of genetic messages. It turns on and turns off hundreds of genes that protect us against numerous types of cancer and numerous types of metabolic diseases. So without sufficient vitamin D, your cellular health will never be good. B12 is crucial for the nervous system and other aspects of your health as well. So those cells require sufficient amount of various B vitamins for energy production, for protection, for inflammatory control. Various other trace elements and other minerals are crucial. Most people are deficient in magnesium. And magnesium is crucial for several hundred functions throughout your whole body within the cell, including energy metabolism. If you don't have enough magnesium, you will not have energy. Other trace elements are missing: chromium, vanadium, germanium, all of which are crucial for natural function of your cells. And most of us are deficient today because our food has grown on depleted earth, and because of various agricultural techniques that bind minerals to the ground and don't allow them into our plants that we eat, or into the plants that animals eat. So we end up deficient in numerous minerals, which are also crucial for our metabolism in other ways. They also protect us from different environment between the cells, and that interstitial environment, the spaces between the cells, that is a crucial environment for the functionality of the cell receptors and communication. If you have poor communication around the cell membrane, the cell will not know how to respond to stress. And most of us are bathing ourselves with semi-acidic environment that exceeds the level of acidity that is normal. So it's mild metabolic acidosis. And it is mostly resulting from excessive intake of calories in our Western society. We eat too many calories. So even if we eat clean carbohydrates with all the fiber, as in eating a lot of beans and legumes and grains, and eating a lot of nuts and seeds, even if we eat clean sources of energy like fats and carbs, we end up with excessive amount of caloric input, and our cells will have to make too much energy and create too many free radicals and create too much carbonic acid in the cells. We call it carbonic acid because it's the result of oxidation of fats and carbohydrates. And that carbonic acid ends up as a bicarbonate within our blood. And then we have to get rid of those acids through the blood. How do we get rid of them? By exhalation of carbon dioxide, as well as by urination, whereby we actually pee slightly acidic urine to dump the acids away, which is why your urine must be acidic to be healthy, or your cells will be bathing in too much acid. And that's a result of eating too much, too many calories, and having too much of the carbonic acid resulting from oxidizing too many carbs and too many fats. However, the situation is far worse if we eat a lot of protein. Whenever we expose our body to excess protein, and most people in Western civilization are excessive with their protein intake, it's highly addictive. It's hard to stop once we start. And now it's easily available because we no longer live in an environment that dictates what we're going to eat. Now we can dictate to the environment what we're going to manufacture and then eat it at will. It's easily available. As a result, we have too much protein, which affects our brain directly. Too many neurotransmitters are getting in there. And we end up, as a result of breaking down proteins for the purpose of energy production, with all types of potent toxic acids like sulfuric acid, phosphoric acid, acetic acid, lactic acid, and others that accumulate in our tissues and cause damage to our communication system and destroy the integrity of our cells. So you want to lower the amount of protein that you eat, and when you do eat, make sure that everything you put in your body is rich with fiber so that you get full without getting too many calories. Whenever you eat animal foods, you already exaggerate the amount of protein, plus you eliminate the fiber, so you end up with too many calories consisting of too much protein, which is the worst combination in terms of mild metabolic acidosis that is chronic. So we need that to address, plus the minerals to help buffer those acids. Every time you eat foods that are rich in minerals, or you're taking mineral supplementations, minerals that are absorbable, you are potentially assisting your body in buffering, neutralizing those toxic acids that are building up in your system. And you want to urinate acid. And you want to exhale and inhale in a very good way, in a deep way from the diaphragm, in order to be more effective at blowing out the carbon dioxide, as well as moving your lymphatics more effectively through the abdomen all the way to the subclavian vein, so that lymphatics can dump their toxin into the circulation so that the liver can clean up those toxins. So if you don't breathe correctly, you end up toxic. And breathing through the upper chest is the wrong way that we have learned in our anxious society to engage in inappropriate breathing. So make sure you learn diaphragmatic breathing and do it all the time. Not just in a moment of yoga or meditation, but non-stop. You should breathe diaphragmatically to support all of your cells by allowing the lymphatics to drain, and by allowing ourselves to eliminate some of the acids, although the majority will still come out through the urine. And make sure that your diet supports that process instead of burdens it further. The messages that the cells get are not just from hormones. They're directly coming from the nervous system too. For example, if I cut one of your nerves that goes to your skin, the skin will degenerate, will atrophy, which means that the nerves are not just bringing sensory information to the brain, they also bring nourishment to the cells that they innervate. So you want to maintain healthy nerve cells. And you want to maintain healthy hormonal output, which is also controlled by the nervous system. Your brain controls the pituitary gland, which controls numerous hormones in the body. Not just the thyroid hormone, but many other hormones are controlled by your thyroid function and activity. And every time you inhale or ingest or smother your body with creams and potions and products that destroy the health of your skin and create absorption of toxic sludge, some of those things are called SPF products that are directly altering your hormonal output because they are antagonizing your estrogens and your testosterone, or in some cases they are enhancing their activities in an undesirable way, creating premature precociousness, premature sexual development, increased risk of numerous types of cancer, and direct damage of inflammation to the cells. We don't want to have excessive hormonal output or insufficient hormonal output. It needs to be exactly in the right balance. And that is determined mostly by your diet, your nutrient availability, and your toxicity. And the integrity of your nervous system depends on your mental status as well. And only with healthy mindset and appropriate relaxation that is devoid of severe mental, psychological stress, only then you can start controlling the activities of your entire hormonal axis from the hypothalamus in the brain, where you have all the emotional centers and control of your temperature and hunger and other basic functions of survival, all the way down through the pituitary to the adrenals and to the thyroid, and thereby all of your sex hormones and the stress hormones that come out of the same adrenals and the same gonadal glands that you have, whether it's the testicles or the ovaries. All of that directly will affect your cellular health, and therefore you must maintain a clean environment, clean diet, avoid excessive drinking of water or excessive eating of protein or excessive eating in general to sustain that system. Most people can't do that. And every time you put yourself in a position of physical stress, as in going for a long bicycle ride or running a marathon or obsessively doing activities like many people do to avoid other addictive behaviors. Many people who used to have a problem with alcohol or drugs or severe emotional problems or are troubled in various ways end up excessively exercising regularly because they manufacture that way different chemical messengers that make them temporarily feel good, but then they become dependent on those chemical messengers and they cannot survive without them. Otherwise they would go back to their alcohol or their drugs. So our behavior now becomes a vicious cycle that puts additional stress on our cells and changes our hormonal output on a regular basis. And when we drink too much water, like most people do, we also affect our cellular health because now our kidneys are dumping water all the time, and our whole hormonal balance associated with the kidney elimination of water versus minerals versus acid is becoming imbalanced. Or my retreats in Thailand, when they learn about the water problem and how we have been brainwashed as a society in the last 15 years to drink 8 glasses of water per day, to the point that we believe it now, even though 20 years ago nobody even thought about it, and nobody carried water bottles everywhere with them. Today everybody in California is carrying those water bottles, feeling that you are in the know. But in reality, you simply drink too much water and creating dilution of your electrolytes in your blood and damage to your adrenals that depend on those electrolytes. So you end up in greater stress as a result. It becomes a vicious cycle. Your kidneys have a different set point hormonally, and now you have no choice but to keep drinking more and more water. So you have to gradually get off that water addiction. Slowly lower your water intake to whatever your body tells you it needs when you're thirsty, and not to drink ever while you eat. And when you eat, you'll find out you're not so thirsty anymore, because your cells are not getting water from what you drink. The cells are getting their water from metabolism. Every time you eat, if you're getting glucose from your food, even if it was not glucose to begin with, but it was a result of metabolizing of carbohydrates or fats, or even proteins, or even fructose, you convert those to glucose, and the glucose enters the cell. If you have enough insulin, which is another important hormone, which affects every one of your cells. And in order to have healthy insulin level, you have to also have healthy cortisol level. The number one thing that changes your cortisol level is your food. Too much animal protein in our society increases the level of cortisol, according to Life Science magazine journal. Back in the 80s, already it was known that too much animal protein spells too much cortisol, stress hormone. Cortisol antagonizes the activity of insulin, prevents you from getting the sugar you need for energy metabolism, and your mitochondria will not be able to metabolize energy for you. We need to have healthy mitochondria, and those will depend on the glucose that comes in thanks to the insulin that allows the glucose to enter. Then you can start making energy in a cleaner way. If you don't have enough insulin, you will not have enough energy. And you'll start making energy in other ways, using fats that have been stored in your own body, and creating ketones and other metabolites of your own body's breaking down under stress. It's okay for a short period of time, but today it happens for too long because of our lifestyle choices. So we need to change our diet, rely on food as our source of water, because when we oxidize those carbohydrates and fats, we create hydrogens that are now split from their original parent molecules, and those hydrogens, protons, H+, are going to bind with oxygen that we inhale. That oxygen enters the cell and binds the protons, the hydrogen, creating water inside your cells. So whenever you metabolize fats and carbs, you make water in the cell where the cell needs that water. When you drink lots of water, it doesn't make it into your cell. It makes it into your blood, it dilutes you and dilutes your kidney output and changes your hormones. Don't drink too much water. Just make sure you don't dehydrate when you are sweating a lot, when you are in the sauna, when you heat up your body. That's when you might feel like you need to drink more. But do not drink because you are told to. Don't force it. It affects your hormonal output, and it affects your brain, because the brain has a feedback mechanism for those stress hormones that make your brain function even worse, and then you get into anxiety, into mental issues, into depression. So I see how everything is connected. Even though we have different types of cells in the body, we have different tissues in the body, they're all interacting with each other. What are those tissues? We have the connective tissue, which consists of your blood and your bone, your cartilage, your ground matrix, is basically connective tissue. We also have epithelial tissue. These are the cells that line our organs, line our glands, line our pipes, line our big surfaces, like the skin is epithelium, the gut is epithelium. Those are crucial cells because they manufacture our hormones for us. They manufacture our nutrients, they manufacture the different excretions from our digestive organs. So these are the most active, most important cells that support the rest of our body, the epithelial tissues. And then we have the muscle tissues and the nervous tissues. So there are 4 different types of tissues in the human body. And the muscle tissue requires energy and nutrients and calcium and magnesium to contract appropriately and relax appropriately. And the nervous system, even though it is by itself determining the outcome of many other cellular processes and health, even though the nervous system tells your muscle what to do and tells your skin cells what to do and your brain what to do, those nerve cells themselves require nutrients, themselves require energy, and need a good method to eliminate their waste material, their acid, and their toxic sewer of metabolism. All 4 cellular tissues in our body require the same things: the nutrients, the detoxification capability, elimination, and energy production, oxygen, and the ability to eliminate the noxious gases and toxins resulting from metabolism, especially if our metabolism is toxic, if we are exposed to poisons and toxins in our environment, and if we're exposed to excessive amounts of food and protein. So you see that even though we have 4 different tissues, they're all interconnected, and they send messages to each other which control the behavior of the entire organism. If even one tissue loses its capability, what we're going to have is degeneration in that tissue, or we're going to have negative impact of other tissues that are directly impacted by the connection and messaging between them. One of the most important messenger system in our body is the immune system. And the immune system is a part of the connective tissue because it is in the lymphatics, in the blood, in the circulation, in the gut, surrounding the mucous membranes. We have a huge amount of immune system. And that immune system is a part of our matrix because it has to be able to visit all the other tissues. So we have the immune cells going through the blood into the lymphatic system, or from the lymphatic system ending up back in the blood, and then ending up in the respective tissues that require that activity of the immune system. So the immune system is directly affected by stress, by hormones, by nutrients, by temperature, by the level of oxygen, oxygenation, by the different pH or acidity, by the amount of mineralization, the oxidative reductive potential. All of these will affect our immune cells everywhere in our whole body. But all of those cells require one thing in common. They require movement, motion. First of all, the motion of our body. You need to be able to move in order to keep things moving through your body. For example, your lymphatics that are going up from your feet towards your heart are not able to push things upward until you start walking and contracting your own muscles rhythmically to keep pushing the lymphatic fluid upwards against gravity, which they would not be able to do otherwise. So people who are sedentary, who sit all day or lie all day, not only they put pressure on certain parts of your body, like sitting on chairs is a horrible thing that we do so many hours, we block the lymphatic flow, plus we avoid movement. So everybody should be walking daily, at least half an hour. If you can do it twice a day, it's going to be much better. I promise everybody who walks twice a day to feel much better emotionally, physically, psychologically, and even the digestive system will improve. And the immune system will work better because the lymphatics will help and you will be less toxic. So movement is crucial. And most of us are lacking in that, therefore we are not supporting our cellular matrix. Another thing that we need to do is reduce our stress. Because our stress level changes our hormonal output, creates more stress hormones, more cortisol. And what did we say cortisol do? Increases premature death. Increases blood sugar level to the point that we are going to have increased end product of the glucose that is excessive in our blood. Those end products are called AGEs. AGEs directly destroy your capillaries, your blood vessels, and making them ultimately self-destruct. Because even your capillaries are made of cells that are flattened, that are creating between them as they have junctions, as they connect with each other, they're creating the little tiny tube that's called a blood vessel. So when you have the stress and the cortisol affecting your own cells and the insulin capacity of entering them, and when you have too much glucose as a result, you end up with advanced glycosylated end products, AGE, which destroy your capillaries. And those tiny cells that surround each capillary are going to disintegrate, self-destruct. And that could lead to those little red dots that everybody has on their skin. You know what I'm talking about, red dots? Oh, yeah. Those are called senile hemangiomas. And they are resulting from systematic and chronic assault on your capillaries because of too much glucose from too much cortisol, stress. Also from too much fructose when drinking fruit juices. Too much fructose destroys your cell because it creates AGEs even 10 times worse than glucose would. So even if you're diabetic, if you don't have fructose in high amount in your blood, you will probably have less destruction of your capillaries than somebody who's not a diabetic but has too much fructose. So avoid drinking fruit juices and avoid any high fructose syrup, any type, even one that are claiming to be healthy for you. To reduce that stress and the cortisol, you have to engage in some types of stress management techniques, whether it is guided imagery or whether it is meditation or just walking and letting your mind wander. Just going to nature, enjoying the trees, enjoying the sun, allowing vitamin D production, all of which will lower your stress level and reduce the anxiety that comes even from the deficiency of an important antioxidant vitamin like vitamin D, which is also a hormone that protects your brain from depression and anxiety and so on. As you can tell now, if we improve our stress management and our movement, our walking, and allow ourselves to enjoy the heat, because we are all tropical creatures. We all came from the tropics and we would be exposed to warmth. When you go into cold weather, your blood vessels constrict and you become more stressed. But when you are in the heat, everything opens up. And that's why going into hot environment, going to the tropics for a visit, lying on the beach, going to the infrared sauna, to emulate what our body used to obtain in nature. That's going to help your cellular health. Also, you are too inflamed in general today. As a population, we are all excessively inflamed. Our gut is too inflamed, leading to a higher risk for colorectal cancer and other disorders and autoimmune diseases, and allergies, and asthma, and atopy, dermatitis, and inflammation in the brain too. We are affected by a lot of things that change our gut integrity and affect our microbes, as we stated earlier. So what do we do about that? we have to change our behavior with regards to the gut. We have to reduce the inflammation in the digestive system. We have to find out what foods are causing us to be inflamed in the gut. What toxins in our food are increasing the inflammation and destroying the microbes. What drugs, medical drugs that we take, are destroying our gut. And as a result, we become more inflamed throughout our entire body. And that inflammation ultimately leads not just to the immune system being dysregulated and attacking where it shouldn't attack, it also becomes weak where it needs to be strong against microbes, viruses, other infectious agents, and cancer. We need to address all of those, the inflammation, the depressed immune system, the tendency towards infection that we cannot handle as a result, and the autoimmune disease that directly destroy our own very cells, because the immune system is now dysregulated and hyper-functioning in the wrong places because of excessive exposure repeatedly to the same toxic nutrients or the same non-toxic but complex proteins that we eat every day unwittingly. If you eat the same protein every day, the same garbanzo beans, the same almonds, the same sesame seeds, or the same gluten, if you eat the same protein every day that is complex, you're increasing the immune responsiveness and the chances of autoimmunity. And the inflammation ultimately changes how your blood behaves as well. Remember, we want movement. The movement is what brings life. Movement is also in the circulation. Not just the nervous system needs to continuously have flow. Not just the gums must always have flow to eliminate fluid and infectious agents from inside the teeth to the outside of the teeth. The flow must also be in the ultimate roadmap of the body, which is the circulation. The circulation actually feeds all 4 tissue types. The circulation feeds your nervous system because each nerve has its own blood circulation supply to give the nerve itself throughout its entire length. If it's a long nerve cell that goes from the toe to the spine, to the cord, it needs to be supported throughout its entire length with blood, with oxygen, with nutrients, or the nerve will not function and start going numb and forming something called neuropathy, which many people today have, simply because the nerves are malfunctioning. The nerves in your ear require the circulation to be intact, or the organ of Corti in the ear ceases to function and you suddenly either don't hear very well or you hear ringing in the ear all the time, tinnitus. By the way, tinnitus and other effects on the nervous system and the circulation are often resulting from excessive electromagnetic exposure. Today we are exposed to so much radio waves, so much microwaves, so much electric current and AC current, and high energy electromagnetic phenomena in our environment, all of which will directly affect our circulation and our nervous system, also leading to ringing in the ear or other neurological phenomena. But if you have a healthy circulation coming to the nervous system, then you can regenerate and rehabilitate the nerve cell despite the other exposures. If you're taking supplementation, if you're taking vitamin D or B12 or lithium or any other minerals and trace elements, how are they going to get to their destination after you swallowed them if you don't have healthy circulation? It is very fundamental. Even the blood vessels themselves need blood supply to help them. So we call this the vasovasorum. Those are the tiny, tiny blood vessels that supply the large blood vessels with blood. You think they have enough, right, inside them? But they are fairly thick around. They're big, like the aorta or some of the other big arteries that come out of the heart. They are very thick and large and have strong muscles around them. Those require their own circulation. The heart itself requires its own circulation. What is coronary heart disease? What is a heart attack? It's insufficient circulation in the blood vessels that come back into the muscle of the heart so that the muscle can get the oxygen and nutrient to make its own energy so it can keep contracting throughout your entire life. You need blood, even for the blood vessels. And you need blood in every epithelial tissue in your body. Your digestive system is epithelium. Throughout the whole digestive tract, you have goblet cells that manufacture juice, mucus, to help things move along smoothly. And that also contains with it various enzymes for digestion. If there's insufficient circulation to the epithelial cells lining the gut, they will not have rich secretions from those goblet cells, and even the crypts and the other areas of the mucous membrane that are in charge of regeneration will not be able to regenerate. So if you have the development of colorectal cancer at the early phase, you will not be able to get rid of it as long as you don't have good circulation to supply the colorectal mucosa with the nutrient and oxygen necessary for those epithelial cells to regenerate from the bottom upwards, meaning from the outside of the pipe towards the inside until they slough off into your digestive system. That's regeneration. You cannot regenerate. And what's the opposite of regeneration? Degeneration. When you degenerate as a result of inability to regenerate, you end up with increased risk of inflammation, proliferation, replication of cells, mutation, and ultimately the development of cancer. Or if you didn't mutate to form cancer, you will simply form severe inflammation, which could be causing a lot of discomfort and many other diseases, because inflammation in the gut will inevitably lead to leaky gut. And leaky gut will always lead to autoimmune disease, allergies, and destruction elsewhere in your body, and inflammation elsewhere. So you see how crucial it is to supply your epithelium with blood, whether it is in the gut or whether it is in the nervous system. Or what about the skin? Don't you want to supply the skin with good circulation? Of course you need to move, and you need to be stress-free, you need to breathe correctly, and you need to eliminate your toxins appropriately and get the nutrients, or the skin will not get what it needs. And you need to be in the sun every day to get vitamin D during the high noon to support your vitamin D intake. Don't burn. Don't stay long enough to burn. But stay regularly in the sun and you will be much healthier. Most of your conditions will improve. Being in the sun is good medicine if you're sick. And it's good prevention if you're not sick. Enjoy the sun on as much of your body as you can. But the epithelium of your skin is not going to have enough just by having the sun. It needs the real minerals, the real vitamins, the real antioxidants, without which the skin will degenerate and age prematurely and start getting disorganized. The disorganization leads to all types of patches of darkness and various colors and roughness, and lesions are forming of different types on your skin, including moles of different types, all the way until you develop sometimes skin cancer. But the vast majority of your facial changes and your skin changes are not going to be cancerous. They're just going to be disfiguring. They're just going to be a telltale sign that you have aged. And you have aged not because of your years, but because you didn't supply the epithelium of the skin with nutrients, with circulation, with blood, with oxygen, and with elimination of waste material. And you didn't support the circulation which brings the immune system to the skin to protect the skin when you are exposed to infectious agents, bug bites, and excessive radiation. So if you don't take care of your cells with all of those methods, your skin will age prematurely, and you will go to the sun and feel like it's the sun's fault that you have degenerated in your skin. But it's not the sun's fault. It's your activity that allow the skin to be degenerate in the first place, and then the sun becomes just one more source of free radicals, one more source of damage of the radiation on top of all the others. That's why people who take good care of their cells can be in the sun a lot longer and they don't burn, and they don't have severe aging effect of their skin. It's not the sun. It's what we do with our cells to begin with. So we want the circulation to end up supporting directly the epithelial tissue. We want the circulation to support the nervous tissue, as I explained earlier. And now we want to support the connective tissue. The connective tissue is crucial because it holds everything together. It provides support. The bones are connective tissue. And the blood itself is connective tissue. And the immune system is connective tissue. You need to support the immune system through a healthy circulation, or the immune cells will not come to their destination to save you. The bone obviously will not be able to retain its strength if there is not enough blood. But most importantly, the connective tissue of your cartilage, which gives you the physical well-being of being able to move without pain, without degeneration of your joints. For that, you need a lot of circulation that is healthy. Why is that? Because there is insufficient blood vessels in the cartilage. The cartilage requires all of its nutrients and oxygen through something known as diffusion. The blood vessels are far away, and they have to allow nutrients and oxygen to diffuse from those capillaries all the way into the cartilage. That's why people who degenerate, they first degenerate in their joints. Because if you have no direct circulation, whenever your circulation is damaged, those faraway capillaries will not be able to send enough nutrients and oxygen through diffusion to those remote areas where there is no direct connection to the blood vessels. Is that clear? Areas that require diffusion are the most susceptible because they don't have direct circulation. They must have intact circulation not too far from them to allow healthy diffusion. If the capillaries are damaged in any way, those capillaries will not allow any diffusion, and those susceptible areas will be the first to degenerate. That's why we also have everybody suffer from an eye disease called cataract and floaters in the eye, because even the eye is the same in that it requires diffusion. You don't have sufficient capillaries everywhere. You need to diffuse. So if the capillaries in the eye are damaged, the eye will degenerate faster and you'll start having the effect of free radicals, like cataract, and the effect of toxins because you don't eliminate the toxins. So that's how you create a dysfunction in organs that are critical for our health, simply by creating a poor circulatory supply that destroyed the diffusion throughout our connective tissue. The same is true for the muscles. If the muscles don't get enough circulation, they start hurting right away. And if it becomes chronic and you don't have enough energy production in the mitochondria within the muscle fibers, which is another name for the muscle cells, then the muscles start degenerating. They cannot handle the stress. And people start developing fatigue and fibromyalgia. And if the brain does not get enough circulation, you don't have enough nutrients arriving at their destination, and you're more likely to develop mental disorders, psychiatric disorders, and emotional issues. Everything here depends on healthy circulation, and that depends on movement. Your movement, as well as the health of the blood vessels themselves. Are they allowed to stay open? Or are you so stressed that they constrict, as in the fight or flight mechanism, which forces you to close down the blood vessels in the gut and in the skin and in other critical areas in order to survive the next fight? For the next 10 seconds, you're willing to forgo circulation to your connective tissue and to forgo circulation to your epithelial tissue, so you will not digest. You will not manufacture digestive juices. Your pancreas will not secrete. Your liver will not secrete. Your bile acids will not be secreted. You will not be able to digest. Everything will be shut down. It's okay for 10 seconds for survival. So you shunt all your blood into the muscle and the brain so you can fight or escape, so that you can survive for 10 seconds. And then usually you can relax again, because if you did not get killed, somebody else did instead. So you can relax. That's nature. The vast majority of time, we should be able to repose and compose ourselves so that the circulation can renew itself in the epithelium of the gut, of the skin, and also in the critical organs, like the eyes and the ears, the organs of sense, and the nervous system can regenerate. All the time it regenerates, not just when you are asleep. Every second you should be regenerating, because every second you're manufacturing toxins and metabolites and acids and free radicals. And once you increase the dose of those free radicals, you start causing necroptosis. Once you have too many acids, once you have too many free radicals from nitrogen, not just oxygen free radicals, which we all make when we normally metabolize our food, but when you eat too much protein again, you have too much nitrogen. Nitric oxide is good in one way, but it's also degenerative in another. And most people today are generating too many nitrogen free radicals, which cause necroptosis, the death of our own very cells. As long as we have good circulation to all of those tissues, we're going to eliminate those toxins that we have manufactured. And we need that every second to regenerate throughout our entire day, not just when we sleep. But the moment we have that severe stress, for those 10 or 20 seconds, we will shut everything down and we will break things down too. That breakdown will then need to be regenerated later. But today we live in a society that the stress is not just 10 seconds long. Today's stress is incessant. Everybody is worried about what people think about them. And today with the internet, you do one wrong thing, or somebody wants to say one bad thing about you, and the whole world knows. That is a big source of stress. Today, everybody has expectations and disappointments. Everybody wants to prove themselves, because we are so motivated as a society to succeed in ways that were not natural for us in our prior habitats, where there was nothing to achieve but to get food and to move about to get that food. And the only stress would be fighting against somebody else for the right woman, or fighting some other animal for survival. But no other stress, because if you are a beta male instead of alpha male, you're not going to be stressed, you're going to be lazy. If you're an alpha male, you're going to work really hard, but you're going to have fun while you're working hard. Our sexuality depends on the circulation as well. All of our hormones will not reach their destination, just like the immune system will not reach its destination if we don't have healthy circulation. So if you are manufacturing dopamine, which helps you become alert and excited sexually, you will not have that going to its destination, and then it will make no difference how much testosterone you're going to have. You need to have circulation bring everything to its target organs. So you see, everything depends on it. And our immune system is crucial today, and we're having insufficient immune supply to our connective tissues and to our epithelial tissues. That's why we are sitting ducks for infections. And we are all infected with microbes that normally wouldn't cause us harm, but now, because of insufficient immunity, are able to proliferate and colonize throughout our body, and we, for the rest of our lives, have to fight them. And every time we are under stress, or the circulation gets worse, or the immune system is depleted because it's winter and there's not enough vitamin D, or because you're upset, because something happened on the way to work or on the way back or while you were at work, as a result, you're going to have those colonies start thriving again. And you go through ups and downs with the immune system, and ups and downs in correlation to that with your built-in colonies of microbes that have been there ever since you received antibiotics for them. So if you were a child and you received multiple courses of antibiotics, not only you destroyed your mucous membranes of the gut and your microbes, you also destroyed the healthy microbes, but only the weak pathogenic microbes, allowing the strong ones to remain and to form new potent colonies that are never going to be responsive to those antibiotics again. And they stay with you, which is why so many people have recurring bladder infection or recurring urinary tract infection. It comes and goes. It depends on the immune system's function, because the colony has been there since they've been getting antibiotics for the first UTI that they had. Now they have chronic colonies that are there waiting for the next opportunity. And they secrete their toxins, which you have to excrete through the circulation. And if you don't have enough circulatory supply to that area of infection, there will be no immune system coming to help. And you'll have another attack of that infection. People with Lyme's disease keep having recurrence whenever the immune system goes down and whenever they have insufficient nutrients. Therefore, you need to have regularly healthy circulatory supply. And if you're not going to manage your stress, if you're not going to walk regularly and move and go into the heat and change your mental status and get enough nutrients to compensate, trace elements, and sufficient antioxidants, and you don't deliver them to the tissues, the target cells, and you don't make enough energy in the mitochondria, you end up with dying cells, and only healthy circulation can prevent that. And healthy nervous system and healthy hormonal balance, and healthy metabolic activities and healthy detoxification. So you also need to support your liver in its detoxification process. If you go on a fast for a whole week, you're going to lose all the fat that is going to be used up for energy since you're not eating, but that fat is full with fat-soluble toxins, which are going to end up rushing into the circulation. And those toxins will go into the liver, and the liver is supposed to detoxify them through phase 1 and phase 2, but it requires numerous nutrients for that. If you don't have the nutrients, the toxins are going to recirculate, keep circulating, and end up in the critical organs like the brain and in the blood vessels themselves and destroying them. So you need to detoxify in a healthy way, supporting the liver instead of devoiding it, denying it of its nutrients that are crucial for detoxification process. All of those things need to be done together, and then you need to have a healthy circulation to deliver the goods and eliminate the toxins and bring the power of secretion to the digestive system and to the skin, so that you have an immune system that is intact everywhere in your body, because the immune cells were able to be delivered through the circulation, as well as sufficient hormonal delivery and nutritional delivery and carbon dioxide elimination, plus all those other acids can be eliminated if they are attached to minerals. Once you attach them to some minerals, you can neutralize some of those toxins. And you need to protect those fragile blood vessels of yours, those fragile capillaries. When I used to do dark field microscopy many years ago, I could see all the time the rouleau formation when the blood cells are clumping together and they are not able, as a result, to go through the capillaries. Why is that? Because the capillaries themselves are only 4 microns in diameter, whereas the red blood cells are 6 to 7 microns in diameter. So how does a 6-7 micron red blood cell go through a blood vessel, a capillary that's only 4 millimeter? By bending. And each red blood cell is looking like a donut that has an area in the center that is thinner, that allows the bending to take place. When they bend, they can go right through the capillary that is smaller than themselves. This bending allows sufficient surface area to come in touch with the wall of the capillary to exchange nutrients, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and so on. This is crucial, and that's why we must have the blood arrive safely at the capillary level and keep flowing effectively, because if it stops flowing, the cells clump together and then they cannot bend anymore. You cannot bend like that. You can only bend like that. But when there's another blood cell there, you cannot bend. And therefore, you have to rely on diffusion even when you have capillaries. The capillaries will not function. You will have to rely on diffusion from the microcirculation, and that is not efficient. You want to get the blood to its destination. Furthermore, when you have inflammation in your body, inflammation leads to clumping of your blood cells. And then again, you're not going to allow the capillaries to do their job. All you have then is the smallest arterioles, whose job it is to bring the blood as close as possible to your tissue, as close as possible to the epithelium, to the connective tissue, to the bone, to the muscles, to the nerves, and to the blood vessels themselves. Those capillaries are crucial, but the tiny, tiny arterioles have to be also functioning to allow diffusion. And if they contract because of stress, or because of electromagnetic exposure, or because of lack of movement, or because of toxins or calcification from too many acids, we end up not being able to utilize those tiny arterioles. And what is going to happen? We're going to have to rely on diffusion from the larger blood vessels that precedes them. And the bigger the blood vessel you have to rely on, the farther you are away from the actual cells. And the more you have to rely on diffusion, and the more you suffer. So our job is to bring the blood to the tiniest arterioles, to give it a chance to get into the capillaries. And then we have to deal with everything else to allow them to stay separate and intact, so that they can bend and go into the capillary and give your tissues what they need. Otherwise, the tissues will degenerate, will accumulate too many of the residuals of metabolism, too many acids and toxins, too much carbon dioxide, and other problems, and they will start having the risk of developing the ultimate degenerative disease, which is cancer. There are devices that are available today designed to increase that circulation all the way to the microcirculation by stimulating activity within the muscles of the tiny arterioles, so that they can keep pushing the blood further and further just like peristaltic motion does in the gut. Just like you see the neck of a giraffe when it swallows something. Things are moving down and you can see them from the outside, going all the way down. That's what the blood vessels are supposed to be doing to our blood, pushing it in boluses. Since the heart is incapable, the heart is a big muscle, but it's not strong enough to push that far into the arterioles. That's why we have muscle in the big arteries and the smaller arteries and in the arterioles and then the microcirculation. They all have muscles up to the capillaries. The capillaries have no muscle. They're just designed to bring the goods. But they will have perfusion only if the microcirculation can bring the goods there. The heart can only push so far, and then it's all a matter of boluses going through peristaltic motion, again, just like the giraffe's neck. We need to keep doing that and doing that and doing that all day long to support our tissues and to prevent degeneration and to prevent our skin from losing its radiance and its usefulness, and our eyes from losing their ability to see, and our ears from ability to hear, and our muscles to be able to perform their tasks and to do their contraction powerfully when we need them to, and to move pain-free, and to deliver the pain receptors with our medicines, with our natural medicines that our body manufactures, our endorphins, our enkephalins, that we need to manufacture to lower our own pain, to create anti-inflammatory effect. We have our own chemical messengers to do all that, but they cannot reach their destination unless we have healthy circulation. So we end up in greater pain, in greater discomfort. If we don't deliver the hormones to our sexual organs, we're going to have problems with gynecology. We're going to have problem with the newborn or with the unborn child, with problem with the breast milk production. They all require sufficient circulation in the microcirculation and in the capillaries to prevent reliance on diffusion, which is inefficient. If I, right now, wanted to release a certain amount of gas and let it diffuse in the room, it will take a while before everybody will smell it. But if I actually pushed it in a certain way, in a directional way, to all directions simultaneously, everybody will smell it almost instantly. That's the efficiency of having pipes delivering the information and the goods to the cells. And we need that for health. Diffusion is inefficient. It goes very slowly from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. So if I release gas right here, the highest concentration will be right next to me. And gradually it will go to the areas of less concentration. Don't worry, I didn't do it. You can stay in the room. But I was considering it for the purpose of demonstration. And ask you to raise your hand when you smell it and see the wave and see how inefficient diffusion is. So you need to have the circulation in place. If we have a device that has the appropriate electromagnetic signal that tells those tiny blood vessels to contract appropriately to form this effect, this peristalsis, that is directional, that brings the good to their destination rapidly, then we can protect ourselves from so many of these signs of degeneration and provide ourselves with what they need. And there are some devices like that that are proven scientifically in famous institutions that study the microcirculation with cameras that can see in real life the movement of both red blood cells through our own blood vessels all the way to the capillaries, and the movement of the immune cells as they ooze through the blood vessels, moving along the surface of the blood vessel, the outside of it, but from the inside of it going to the place where they can exit into the tissue that's been damaged or traumatized or injured, and you want the injuries to heal fast. Anybody who has diabetic sores will not heal fast because of insufficient capillary perfusion. And even the arterioles are not perfused, so the sores just won't heal. Or if you have an injury or a fracture or even a torn muscle or torn ligament or partially torn ligament, you need circulation there. Any orthopedist will tell you that. Any physical therapist and chiropractor will tell you that. You need healthy circulation there so that your joints can rehabilitate faster and you can go back to healthy motion. Lack of healthy motion will by itself create the problem again. So use everything in your capacity to support the movement and motion within your joints, within your blood vessels, within your nervous system, within your hormonal system. Allow the movement, the flow to take place through the capillaries, through the tiny arterioles, using your stress management, your nutritional status, your supplementation. Don't rely on drugs for that, because drugs, even if they might increase circulation by a little bit, they will also poison you in the long run. It's not healthy. We need it to be continuous, not just short term. Manage your stress. Increase your healthy temperature and balance hormones, but make sure that while you do all that, you also take care of your healthy circulation using whatever devices are available out there, including heat, including moisture, including activities, and use some of those machines that are proven scientifically to increase the microcirculation and the immune activity according to the camera that prove it, instead of just say that they do it. Go for the proof. Go for the scientific evidence. Go for the scientific publications that describe the effect of these instruments, and then you know that you can rely on them. And then you know what to do to stop the degenerative process in its tracks. If I were not traveling as much as I do all the time, and if I didn't have already so much to carry with me, with my travels and unexpected trips to our remote countries across the ocean, if I didn't have to keep doing that all the time, I would definitely buy one of those units that would support my circulation in the face of all the stress that I'm going under, you know, with being in new places every day, in airplanes all the time. I would definitely need to boost my circulation on all levels to support my hormones and nervous system and to support my vitality on every level. I don't want to degenerate prematurely, and I'm sure you don't either. So let's do something about it. Keep your cells avoiding necroptosis. Keep yourselves thriving. Keep yourselves alive and well, just like you should keep your cells. Keep your cells and keep yourselves alive and well. Thank you very much. I was pointing that way. You.
Okay. What are these I have a few questions. What are these microcirculation devices? How much water is too much or correct?
Okay.
Somebody 120 or 160?
No more than 2 questions.
Okay, those 2.
Water is dependent on you and your activity. When I trek in the Himalayas, and I trek twice a year, welcome to join in October to see what we've managed to succeed with. Then obviously you are in the heat and you're walking a long time with a backpack, you're going to drink more. But when you are regularly eating throughout the day, you don't need to drink at all. I generally drink about half a glass per week. Yeah, that's when I feel. Right now I feel like it because it's hot in here and I've been talking and losing. So right now I would like to drink a little water if somebody will share with me. But generally speaking, Everybody in my groups who avoids drinking too much, within a few days, they already feel so much better. And they feel like suddenly they don't have to go to urinate in the middle of the night, which is a medical condition. Nocturia is a medical condition, and you avoid it simply by drinking as nature intended. No more, no less. In nature, we would be sitting on a tree and eating leaves all day, and we would never drink. Go to drink, and some animal will eat you, because that's where they're lurking. Because animals that eat a lot of protein, animals that eat lots of animal proteins need to drink a lot more because they're so toxic. With so much nitrogen free radicals. They need to drink more water to dilute all that. But humans are supposed to eat very little of that, to be very low in the food chain. So they don't need very much water. It's unnecessary. They manufacture it with the carbs and the fats that enter their body. Only if you're thirsty, drink a little bit, and usually, one gulp will be enough, right? Let's see if I'm gonna not miss.
And did you say don't drink with meals?
Never. Never drink with your food, even though your server or hostess will insist on you drinking first. That's for their income, not for your health. Do not drink before you eat or after you eat for at least 2 hours. 15 minutes minimum before. But you'll see, it will make a big difference. I can be in an airplane for 14 hours without going to the bathroom. And the bathrooms in the airplanes are not that great to visit anyway. But imagine the people that sit next to me and I don't have to keep interrupting them, jumping over them to go to the toilet. They're very happy that I have the window and not somebody else who has to get up every 2 hours. Drinking too much water is not good for you. There are situations where it might be. As to your other question, Shitwan will talk about one specific instrument that does that job. So she will give a presentation now about one specific machine that has been proven scientifically by the Institute of Microcirculation in Berlin to dramatically improve circulation in your capillaries by 30%, which is dramatic improvement. So she will give a presentation now about that, so I don't have to get into the machine. Yes?
What's the optimal diet, for good immune system?
Optimal diet? Write an email to Anna or write an email to my assistant in Minneapolis or in Cape Cod. Just write clinic@ecopolitan.com and ask for the top 10 foods. It will be a whole list of food groups, and there are, I don't know if that's in here. Oh, there's a booklet here that tells you what the top 10 foods are, but there are also lectures for free online, thetruthaboutyourfood.com. It's 12 hours of lectures that give you all the fundamentals of health and nutrition and what you should do and how you should eat. And then you have to understand that each individual has some different situations, different medical history, different lifestyle, different genetics, different medical drugs, and so on, that would make each person slightly different in what can harm you. It's not about what to eat, it's about what not to eat. So some people should not eat something that others can handle for genetic or exposure or historical reasons. And that's why there's no one-size-fits-all with regards to what you should avoid. But there is one-size-fits-all with regards to what you should focus on as human beings. As human beings, we're all the same. Just like zebras don't eat according to the blood type. And giraffes don't eat according to the metabolic typing. And chimpanzees don't say, oh, I'm going to go paleo, I'm going to go this. They all are eating according to what nature intended for them to have. So it's kind of superfluous. If you want to sell books, you have to create a man-made idea to confuse the population with many options. In reality, in that we are all the same. But what we differ in is in what we should avoid that affects us individually. Some people should avoid histamine-rich food or histamine-causing food. Some people should avoid gluten more than others. etc., etc. The vast majority of people should avoid dairy products. There's enough individuality to keep life interesting, but there's enough similarity to keep life simple, and that's why animals in nature survive just perfectly well without a nutritionist to confuse them. Yes?
What do you recommend to help with arteries in the legs, for example, that have, or capillaries that are showing, so that it looks it looks like it's starting to be varicose veins, but
Yes.
it isn't popping?
If you have already varicosities or other unsightly blood vessels sticking above the skin, it's usually a result of disintegration, lack of antioxidants, lack of phytonutrients, phytochemicals that you would eat a lot when you eat spices. A lot of spices are really good for you. They're closer to the natural environment. People don't eat enough spices. They don't eat enough seaweeds and enough flowers of different colors. So those should reinforce the walls of the blood vessels and make them less likely to collapse and push out. So nutritionally, you can do some things to prevent from getting worse. There are also some supplements that can improve the performance, and definitely using the machines that we just mentioned that issue this electromagnetic pulse therapy that is called vascular physical therapy, necessary to improve the collateral circulation. And if the collateral circulation or microcirculation is functioning well, then the blood vessels that are large are not going to have to exaggerate the amount of blood going through them. You have to give the blood a place to go. And if the microcirculation is intact, then the large vessels are not going to keep compensating by extending too big, which ends up showing on the surface of our skin, especially the areas of the lower extremities where gravity is playing a role at the same time. Yes?
How do you recommend reducing the harmful microorganisms in your body and increasing the beneficial ones?
First of all, how do you improve the microcirculation? Sorry, the microorganisms in your body? There are specific probiotics that are colonizers. Most of the probiotics people get today are not colonizers. They are not strain identified. They're not proven genetically to be the type that will colonize in your gut. Especially not the ones that are in your food, are not the ones that will colonize. They'll just flush right through you. And you want to keep exposing yourself to healthy microbes through dust and dirt. You don't want to live too sterile of a lifestyle. You want to be exposed to animal and plants and dirt. And you don't want to wash everything with extreme anxiety. And instead of having a 5-second rule, have a 5-hour rule whenever food falls on the ground. Okay? And also, do not destroy the microbiome of your skin. That's the biggest problem. People shower with soap every day, obsessively, instead of how it used to be in the good old days. You know, when people were lucky if they went into a dirty bathtub once a week. And they didn't need much soap. They just kind of allowed the water to wash over their body. And they didn't scrub everything and destroyed all the microbes. And they didn't put all the creams and all the oils on their skin, which destroy everything. If you want to know more about that, come to our skin seminar on Saturday. We'll have a skin seminar. There's information there where you will learn how to diagnose different types of skin lesions. And you will learn a little bit about skin health. And you will learn why you cannot put coconut oil on your skin. Okay, come to the seminar. Yes. Oh, I already answered you. Yeah.
You mentioned tinnitus, and I was wondering what your thoughts were about tinnitus and the relief or the cure of tinnitus.
Well, tinnitus is a result of stress on the tiny nerve receptors in the organ of corti in the inner ear. There are various potential reasons why they will be damaged and cause this type of dysfunction. One of the most common is impaired circulation. So if you improve that, your tinnitus can disappear. Another one that I see often is electromagnetic exposure, especially radio frequencies. If you want to get radio frequency neutralizers, Anna can help you with that. And I've seen people who just use those radio frequency neutralizers known as GS filters that you plug into the walls, and they eliminate, scientifically speaking, the radio frequencies. Then I've seen people who overnight lost their tinnitus. Probably because it also helped their circulation. So I'm going to only take one more question or two more, and that's it, very quickly, because we need to give the stage to Chitwan. Yes?
You mentioned the relationship between urinary tract infections and antibiotics. How does someone come out of that if they've taken antibiotics?
How does somebody get out of that vicious cycle of infection after you took antibiotics and allowed microbes that are resistant to form a new colony? And the answer is A, circulation. B, support the cellular immune system. Most people have insufficient strength at the cellular immunity because they, with all the dietary habits and inflammation in the gut, and with all the drugs that we're taking, and especially the vaccination, we end up with too much of the humoral immune system and insufficient cellular immune response. So we have to give nutrients to our body that support the cellular immune response, and then it can continuously fight viruses more effectively and other colonizers. And the other thing is to regularly use the bioactive plant fraction formulas. Those I recommend for everybody. I always carry them with me in my pocket. The bioactive plant fraction, Anna can help you with those. I take them in the airplane. They save me. I inhale them, a few drops in my hand. My throat is scratchy right now because I spoke loudly. I don't have a microphone or speaker, so I just inhale it straight into my mouth and nose. And you will feel immediately that my voice is better.
What is that?
It's anti-inflammatory, it's antimicrobial, antiviral, antibacterial, antiparasitical, pro-detoxification, and an immune system balancer, and an antioxidant enhancer directly into the blood through the lungs. You inhale it. So it does not have to go through your whole gut. This is something everybody should have to also support their cellular health. And of course, if you have healthy circulation, you will deliver the bioactive plant fraction molecules everywhere in your body. Every tissue will get them. They're also anti-cancer. These are all proven molecules in individual scientific studies published showing numerous research tests and experimentation that showed how each one of those molecules can do a great amount of work on many levels in the body, and it's all scientifically verified. And only those molecules are inside those bioactive plant fraction formulas. I would recommend for everybody to have all three of the basic formulas. There are other three that are for specific situations. But it's not to replace healthy circulation. Anything that enters your blood needs to reach its destination.